Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 110 of the ITSM crowd. I am taking a brief moment to reflect on the miracle that is Rob and I chatting from opposite ends of the world. 7 o'clock in the morning for me. I think, Rob, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening for you?
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Not that long ago, it would have taken me a month to get a letter to Rob. So the fact that we can do this is just a minor miracle. And I'm delighted to have him with me. So today's episode we've called Lean In. We're going to be talking about lean, process improvement, optimization, which is Rob's life, I think, or at least Rob's working life. So I'm going to start by saying, Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Oh, that wasn't part of the questions. Tell me a bit about yourself. So, yeah, I'm a business consultant based in Hamilton, New Zealand. And as you said, like probably majority of my work is focusing around lean, or I kind of lift up the conversation and talk about business excellence or operational excellence, which is probably more the classical term. So, and focusing with SMEs, so the small, medium businesses, 50 staff or less, which tend to get missed out by some of the big consulting firms, and just like really helping them sort of get into that continuous improvement, that excellence, quality frame, mindset, really. So, yeah, so I'm lucky enough to be able to trip around New Zealand and get to meet some crazily cool businesses, the ones that just are quietly doing some, world-class stuff. Just humbly in a back corner in a quiet factory or a shed, literally sometimes in a shed. So that's part of what I do. What else do I want to know? Lego Serious Play Facilitator, which I know will come up in conversation. And about to do certified training, so training the facilitators as well. So I'm going to add that to the business bow from 2023. So I get lucky to go around and have some cool conversations with people and teams, and and just make sure that they're achieving the best that they can do. Anything else? Have I missed anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because one of the reasons you ran in saying you wanted to do some more speaking, and I thought,
Yes.
brilliant, because you've been on the ITSM crowd before. And
Yes.
one of the reasons that I thought this would be a good conversation is the fact that so much focus on at the moment is on transformation. And it's, it's big projects, it's 6 months, and we've all seen the stats about how many transformations fail and how much money's being wasted on transformation efforts. And it feels to me like what you're doing is kind of the opposite of that. And I thought it'd be really nice to talk about, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with lean. We will have people watching this who've maybe come across lean but are not familiar with it. Can we start with just some definitions,
the real basics,
and a few examples? Yeah,
and remind me about transformation, because we'll get back onto that word as well, because I don't use the term a lot, but I won't use the word hate. I dislike the word transformation because I've just never seen it achieved anything. But going back to lean, lean's a fairly common term, I guess, now, and a few people know, I guess a lot of people know the origins of lean. It's come out of Toyota and I guess post-war, Second World War. They had to work with their constraints, which was no money, no factories, and no people. And so they had to, work smarter about how they delivered their product to the people. You go back to the history, and I've been doing some reading over the summer and, even last year, just going back to the classic lean textbooks. So I guess they really wanted to go into mass production, and copy forward and all of that kind of stuff. But they just couldn't with their constraints. So they had to go, right, we have to do short numbers, and we had to do fast turnarounds and all the things that mass production wasn't. And I guess over what is now nearly 80 years, they've created the Toyota production system, which the faster acknowledges that's a system that they've created to solve their problems. Don't cookie cut it to other places. But when you really drill down, lean is about everything needs to add value to the customer. If it's not adding value to the customer, don't do it. And that's as binary as you can ever get, right? So, I try and simplify it down. So it's around about asking the teams the pretty basic question, but a difficult question, which is that really helping you deliver what you promised? And if it's not, why are you not? So that could be, is that meeting 2 hours, is that really helping deliver your promises to the client? Or could have been an email? That 20-page report, could that be a couple of bullet points or a one-pager? Because all the rest of it is extra processing. So we're going to the 8 wastes of lean. Using old processes, I know, in service management, using old systems, or using systems that people think are the next best thing, and then trying to find the problem that it could solve, rather than trying to find the problem and then look at this best solution. Sometimes, particularly in IT and service management, it can go the other way. And even, and just simple things like decision points. I was working with a client the other day in another city around New Zealand, and, the decision to buy a $100 drill or a part, and they had to get, 2 levels of sign off to go and do it. Whereas, just go and buy it and get the job done, because all of that's downtime. So that's lean, really, is asking the teams, what are you doing? Is it adding value to the client? Is it helping you deliver what you promised them? It's as simple as that.
And do you find that kind of this buildup of waste comes with the age of an organization? As the organization gets older, do we have more things that we do because we've always done them? Or do you come across almost startups that have a lot of things that they could remove?
Oh, look, everyone's got their own different journey of where they've got to. Startups are an interesting one. So depending on how long you define a startup, even if it's still a startup after 2 years, I guess it probably is. What they were doing when they were 2 months old, and they've carried those processes. They're still on the kitchen table, and now they've got suddenly woken up and they've got 20 staff. Those systems that got you to that point might not get you to the next point. So it's getting the skill. Is a consultant over in the States he calls it organizational fitness. Getting that fitness to be able to be, I use the small a, agile, into changing and recognizing that's no longer fit for purpose, and getting the team to re-identify what the next best process is. Older organizations, there's absolutely, depending on the sector, because that does have some pigeonhole different sectors now, and I know I'll get some feedback here if people see this, but some sectors are a lot more old school. This is the way we have always done it, and how dare you come in and never worked a day in a factory and tell me that that's a crazy way of working. So changing old habits. So old habits are just as hard as changing new habits, or just being nimble and flexible. So they all come with their interesting challenges and personalities.
Yes. And is it a big shift? Because I think I've seen, it might even have been Rob England talking about the fact that you can't pick something up from manufacturing, which is predictable, repeatable, and apply it easily to knowledge work, which is unpredictable, complex, not necessarily repeatable. You can do the same thing and have different outcomes. So is there an adaptation that needs to happen?
I think it goes. Yeah, Rob and I have had some good conversations in the past. A couple of things. I think the framework's adaptable to any environment. Lean can apply in an office and ECM, ITSM environments as much as anywhere else. I learned lean in the healthcare environment, so I'm quite I've come very untraditional background, working in GP clinics. And the like. So rather than the ex-Toyota factory manager and all of that kind of stuff, I would challenge Rob. I'd say everything's got predictability. Everyone's got standards. Everyone, you might get fluctuations, or the questions might be variable, but the process you take is predictable. I get even in the sort of mechanical world, like you've got a mechanic, car repair, panel beater. They all say, oh, every job's different. I'm going, no, every job comes in, you assess, you quote, you plan the job, you deliver it to the plan, and you finish paperwork and then deliver. It's always the same process. What happens in that, like what happens in service management, could be quite different, and the questions could be different, or the inquiries, or whatever, but the process is the same. So I think it's that part. So there is, and I really push back on the word complexity. Is most things are pretty simple. It's just we humans make it complex. We think it's difficult, but we make it difficult. I was working at a university once, and they said, oh, we're just such a big, complex organization. I'm going, no, the rules that you're written are yours. Your policy are yours. Influence it, change it. If it doesn't work, change it. And I think it's that inflexibility that makes things harder. But I think I'll go out on a limb here. I don't know the UK sort of market or breakdown, but certainly in New Zealand sort of business sector, SMEs or small, medium businesses take up 80% of our economy. Very few of them are complex. Are they hard and challenging at times? Absolutely, but they're not. I just finished reading Bali Patter, so I'm doing a whole lot of posts about him on LinkedIn this week. And he's ex-Chief Operating Officer, CEO of Lego. And he goes, it's a simple business. You take plastic powder, you put it in a mold, we create plastic toy, bits, package it and send it out. He goes, it's simple. All the rest of it creates complex. So it's about if they can think of it, a reasonably big company in simple terms, so can I'd say 90% of the businesses and organisations we deal with.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Lego, which again, I see your LinkedIn feed go through mine every now and then, and it looks fun. And I think this looks great, because I can imagine some of the conversations that you have with organisations can be a little bit uncomfortable, asking people about things that they maybe feel defensive about. So how does the Lego Serious Play fit into that?
Yeah, so Lego Serious Play, or LSP, is created by Lego. So they created it in the early 2000s when they were going through their last dip that they've had in their long life. And basically, the quick process is you put a question to the team. So a couple of classic questions could be, what does a great year or a successful year look like for our business, our team, insert situation? Or it could be, what's the ultimate customer experience? Or what does great leadership look like? So as long as it's an open-ended question, you put it to the team, and people make models, and crazy models. This is one that's been prepared earlier, and like that means nothing to you, but whoever, and my partner made this. This is her model for her successful year.
Nice.
And each element has a meaning. So it's all metaphors and stories.
Yeah.
But from that, you create keywords, and from those keywords, you can create strategy themes and then action plans and all of that. So what it does is you put the question out to the team. Everyone makes individual models, and they tell their interpretation. So no one's wrong. So it's a safe way, touching on your point, it's a safe way to share their ideas. There's no wrong. You can't correct my model, or you can't put your meaning on mine. Mine's mine, yours is yours. But everyone has to take a turn to share their story, and everyone has to take all the turns to listen. So it creates that 100% engagement. Everyone has a part to play, not your typical meeting where, I'm trying to get a voice in, but Claire's, dominating the room. We've all been in those kind of planning strategy kind of sessions, right? So, and because you're playing, you're being active, you tap into sort of the psychology, it's like when you're having a shower or you're mowing the lawns and those ideas come to your mind.
Yep.
It's the same process that Lego Serious Play gets you. It takes away the normative behavior and you get into different thinking spaces that you wouldn't normally in your typical traditional meetings. So, and it just changes the whole vibe of the room. When you turn up with Lego in the bag and people go, oh, we are actually using it. And you go, yeah, no, we do.
It's that noise of tipping out Lego pieces, isn't it? It's just a fabulous
I literally
noise.
had those toy mats and it's Lego soup and you just go for it. And then from those individual models, you can create team models and all that. So but the best of everything can go together, and then you've got that collective vision of whatever that question you're going to. And then there's a few other variables after that, but that's it in a nutshell. So why it works with me and why I use it a lot is it helps create that true north. Right. So if you are looking at that operational excellence, even lean, you've got to create that target situation. So that's what it helps create, or at least helps having that conversation. So without that, you've got lots of energy, but it could be all over the place.
Yeah. And so I think, the things like a workshop like that can be incredibly valuable. And I think back to days that I've spent building an aeroplane out of bamboo canes and paper and things like that. But quite often I've seen companies, they put a little bit of focus on something and then it fizzles out. So what's the sort of a good time period, after you've had this visualization session? How long are you typically working with a company?
A couple of ways I worked. It can be a one-off, and you kind of leave them with the baby in the bathwater, really. But I part of my offering in that one-off session is always a catch-up, months later. So what are you doing? Because that's the value. If you're not doing that, it's a great team building activity.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line. If you want to get the full value, what is the and part of the workshop is why the workshops go a little bit longer. It can be 2.5 hours. You can do a session just in 2, but if you take 3 hours, a good 40 odd minutes is right. Here's the outcomes. What's that framework? How are we going to operationalize that? What does the weekly routine structure process look like to keep this alive? So it's you spend what I call the so what. You spend time on the so what. So what are you going to do with this? How are you going to action it?
Yeah.
Could be the Kanban and who's going to walk out with responsibilities, all of that stuff. On an ongoing platform or ongoing engagement would be, it could be fortnightly, and then over a number of months or even a couple of years of just slowly, gradually installing that continuous improvement and getting better even with their strategy, and then the deployment or implementation. So from a one-off to a couple of years engagement and everything in between.
Yeah. And that couple of years, I guess, again, it's that opposite of the transformation, the big program. It's smaller, more incremental.
Yeah, because again, someone might shoot me off the top of the hill, but I don't think transformation works. I don't know what you think, but I've never seen it work. If it's hard and fast, like you say, a transformation project over 6 months, I mean, all that does is scare a lot of people, and you don't engage and get that buy-in, that change. And I'm going to step on our friend Karen Ferris's space on around change management in this space, but her space would take 6 months. Then you're going to do the action. It is incremental. We're people and we've got emotions. We've got things that we need to learn how to let go or pick up or upskill. So it does take a lot longer than people take. And that hard, fast transformation, it creates more debris than what it sort of solves.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the organizational equivalent of technical debt, isn't it? I don't know, cultural debt that you end up with when you've done that. But transformation is not my favorite concept, but then equally this idea of digital transformation particularly has got such power now. It's almost what we're stuck with. So then it's trying to find a way to deliver some value with a label that we wouldn't necessarily choose.
Yeah, it's a flavor of the month, and if it's going to pick up funding or sort of momentum, use it to your advantage. But in the end, it's the same process. We're going through that gradual change to go back to the goal, which is deliver to the customer what they want better, and maintain quality. If digital tools help, that's great. If you read a lot of that operational excellence material, even the book I quoted before, they're hesitant at automation or digital implementation. Get the human processes right first, and then look at how to support that with digital tools. But if you use digital tools to try and solve the problem, you'll just speed rubbish in, rubbish out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably a little bit provocative, I don't know, in this space, but I think we just get caught with this is industry 2.0 for lean 4.0, Internet of Things, all of these things. But it's really, if we don't have the people, process, system understanding first, all of that is just speeding up poor quality.
Yeah, and I think we used to say 10 years ago, if you outsource rubbish, then you've got outsourced rubbish. And I think the same applies for automation, doesn't it? If you automate rubbish, you've got automated rubbish. You can maybe do it faster. So I think one of the challenges for organizations at the moment, and I say this as somebody who runs a small business, is there's an awful lot, and you've got to kind of think, should I be thinking about business excellence or agile or DevOps or whatever it might be? So what are kind of the risk signs for an organization that should maybe make them think, I need to have a chat with Rob, or I need to read into lean a little bit more? What are the kind of the anti-patterns and the danger signs that you see?
Yeah, two scenarios really quickly is the first one, I wrote a blog 2 weeks ago about this actually. First one is when you're on top of the game and things are going really well, that's when you start, because hit it when it's going well.
Yes.
So that's one. And the smart organizations, and that's, I guess, the people who are engaging me at the moment, they're the ones, they've seen the potential economy downturn or the post-COVID and all that. They're recognizing, going, hey, we're actually come out the last few years successful, but we've learned not to be complacent, so we need to get better. And so they're the ones doubling down on business improvement. They're doubling down on marketing and all of the other, and training of the staff. Whereas the not so smarter ones are going, we can't afford that, so they slow down and stop.
Yeah.
Those slow down and stop, what will tend to happen is, and it's gradual, I talked to a business owner in Wellington last year, is top of the game, but all of a sudden the red flags that you see is the quality that just gradually, without realizing it day to day, but suddenly the quality targets are 20% less than what you expected, what you used to have. You tend to be missing that 1 or 2 targets or deadlines than what normally used to happen. The customer complaints are just gradually, 5-10% getting more increased. So those are, it's just that those slow, gradual, they just catch, all of a sudden you wake up and go, what the heck, how's that happening? So those are the red flags, the firefighting, the, having to redo all, the redo work, or, problem solve, I spend all my time firefighting, problem solving. They are the red flags. They are going, actually, that's waste. That's a lot of wasted energy, emotion. Let's stop and invest the time to start improving and solving those problems for good. Because otherwise that's where burnout and mental health and all of those things come in.
Yep, absolutely. And if somebody's watching this and thinking, okay, where do I start? Where would you point them to? Is there something that they should read? Have you got any top tips?
Look, just read a lot. Read any of the there's blogs, there's podcasts. Understand what you're going to get yourself into, because one of the biggest failures is people don't understand what it is, or what lean or operational excellence is, or it's all the same thing. It's just slightly different titles and a slightly different viewpoint, but they're all achieving, or heading towards the same goal. Understand what it is. Go and talk to people. Go and talk to people who've gone through the journey, and spend a lot of time doing that. The more preparation, the longer you're going to engage and do it successfully, rather than that quick transformational. We'll bring that in and butcher it even more, because the failure points is not understanding it, so that leadership don't hold it and own it. And see it as a project. Oh, that lean thing. And then, hey, look, Claire, you're my ops manager. Can you do this lean thing? And I've just totally devolved it down. It's never going to be successful. You might be passionate, love it. It's not going to be successful because I don't understand it and I haven't devolved it. Start communicating that to your teams, talking to them, and get that clarity. This is what we're achieving. Have that sort of soapbox statement, and starts sharing that day in, day out for weeks. And then also get support. And I'm slightly biased on this as a consultant, but the support doesn't have to be just a consultant. It could be a peer, a colleague who has gone through it, or another business, just someone who can just share the pain and hey, that's really hard today, and that's okay, but the pain it's like going to the gym for the first time. It's going to be sore for a while.
Yes.
Get through it, because we've done it. It's that personal trainer. So that can come in from a peer, your local business supports. I'm not sure the structure in the UK, but here it's the Chamber of Commerce's and a whole lot of different advisories and all of that. Go to networking and just share their story over a cup of tea or a wine or whatever. And even internally, get an improvement team or a business operational excellence team, and that's not a leadership team. That's kind of a that team representatives, the core 6, 10, depending on how big your organization is. And as the senior manager, you lead that, but let them drive it.
Yes, that makes sense.
So I think do a lot of groundwork. It's a journey. It's not a project. So it's something that does not have an end. So just make sure you're willing to sign up on that and understand that before you hit go, because the failure points are you start and you stop and you lose credibility.
Yes.
You never gain that back again. I'd rather delay and take your time and then start well informed. So
that makes sense. And where can people read more from you? You mentioned a blog a while back.
Yeah, my website, plexusconsulting.co.nz, and every blog's got different links to different other places, but just Google Lean on Mr. Google, and find some good podcasts. There's some really cool. I was on Quality Podcast by John Thacker in the States a couple of weeks ago. There's a number of them. Mark Graben from US. There's some really good podcasts and books out there. So go on Amazon or Book Depository, type in Lean, and there's some really good classic books just get out and read. I go back to them all the time just to keep it sharp and keep it focused. So and just learn and ask questions. Go on LinkedIn and ask questions. Heaps of people there's heaps of people that share information. Like I've got a colleague, Paul Dunlop in Australia. He shares an absolute ton of tips and advice. He gives away all his knowledge on LinkedIn. All videos, 2-minute videos, 1-minute videos, and you can learn, you can do it. It's not hard. It's not a secret.
Finding Paul Dunlop now. I shall follow him. Rob, thank you so much. That's been brilliant. Really, really helpful. Really, really practical. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to do that for us. Our next episode in March is going to be all about target operating models, which is another phrase that seems to be bandied about so much it's almost lost its meaning. So we're just finalizing the date for that, but keep an eye on our social media and you'll find that one, and hope you'll be able to join us for that. So to everybody who's watching, thank you for joining us on the ITSM crowd. Rob, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And we will see you on the next episode.
No problem. And thank you for inviting me.